Well, alright folks, here's the update. Yeah, you can see I tore it apart. This is what happens, all like that, when I am left to my own devices. It was too dirty. Look, everything I touch is dirty. We started with just painted the wheels for the heck of it. And I said, let's paint the whole darn thing. I got 100 rattle cans. It's got to get done right. Put the old steering shaft back in, just so I could move it around. And you can't see down here. Let's get this mast out of the way. It's just filthy all in around there. There's just dirt everywhere. Cruds. What is that? 69 years of fun and excitement this thing's had. And yeah, it was greased well, because it's everywhere. So I took all the parts off. I unwired my wiring after I got through all cleaning it up anyway. Well, there's just a nice view if anybody's got one of these and they're trying to figure out what things do and where they go. I find videos just as well. Just took out the shafts that forward, reverse, and first and second gear, high-low. I got a little leak here now. If you can see, I went and took this off thinking I could get this shaft out, and I didn't. So I'm not sure if it's leaking now that I tightened it up. It's a steel shim in there. But I'll have a look at it. I haven't changed out the tranny fluid anyway, or the gearbox oil. So we got to do that yet. And I just put the steering shaft in there with the old sector shaft. I just threw it together. I don't put no grease in it. It ain't going anywhere. So the next trick is to try and get this mast out of here. That's going to be fun. It doesn't seem terribly difficult. I've already started by putting a couple of blocks of wood under here. And as the mast goes up, as you tilt it this way, it should rest on the blocks of wood. That's the theory. Now if I take these blocks of wood out, you can see there's only two bolts holding the whole mast on. Once you got all the hydraulic, I got no hydraulics in there. It's just two bolts. There's one there and there's one over there. And as this should tip up, it's just on a bar right here. It's kind of hard to see. It's a U shape. It goes on the bar and the bolt is underneath it. So when you take those bolts out and you go to tip it forward with those boards under it, it should start lifting the mast up and start crashing forward. Now the crashing forward part is, that's going to be interesting. I'm by myself, but I have a plan. I'm going to use, wherever I put it in this mess, I'm going to try and use my material lift, little forklift. It's a battery operated material lift. You can't really use it as a forklift because when the forks go down, they rest on top of the pallet. They're not wide enough. But it's a nice machine I picked up at an auction. So I'm going to try and put that on the nose of the mast. So as it tilts down, that'll start bringing it down. Hopefully it'll lift it off of them U-shapes and come down gently. Put it on a dolly. Get that out of the way. And then we're going to take all this and we're going to drag it out and we're going to get it all pressure washed. I already pressure washed it twice, but yeah, 69 years of real grease is, it's dirty. Then we're going to paint it all up because, well, why not? We came this far. It's all torn apart. And then we'll be done there. The next fun, the last fun, I should say, was 4 hours of trying to clean this hydraulic tank. Now, this uses 10-weight motor oil for hydraulic fluid. I have the manual for this 1951 LT35 tow motor uses regular 10-weight motor oil. And in the manual, they'll give you your all your numbers, your pour rate, at what temperature, your viscosity, your all them good things. And the best I come up with was this company down in Pennsylvania. I think I drove down by them a few times. It's the Oil City. It's a Phillips motor oil. And I talked with one of the guys there, and they said, well, they knew all about this kind of idea, and the hoisters use the same old style oil, which is fine. But note to self, as you can see, I just get carried away. I like things clean, and once all this is done, this shop is going to get all clean back again. I don't even like the floors all dirty. It makes me crazy. When I took the oil tank out, there was all kinds of leavings. There was, what do we call it when you got it in the motor there? Deposits. The motor oil itself leaves deposits on the inside of the tank. I didn't think they were that bad, but I figured I'd try and clean them anyway. Well, 4 hours later, 2 gallons of mineral spirits, specially designed. It was really difficult to design that. There you go. Brushes to get in there and brush it, and brushes on an angle. It was a real terror. My hands are all torn up, aside from, the COVID hand sanitizer. That mineral spirits kept melting the gloves after a while, so I just gave up on them. Not a good idea. But this thing had to get flushed and swished and flushed and swished and flushed and swished and swished and flushed, and it just kept going on. And the stuff that was coming out of it, this is the 1 gallon of, or whatever's left in there. Figure I'll use that for, bearings, and it ain't all tore up, but there's a lot of goo in there. And then we used cheesecloth filters and just kept trying to filter out the debris and take just mineral spirits again, and just kept flushing out little pieces. The problem is, this system does not have a hydraulic oil filter. Interestingly enough, it doesn't have an oil filter. There is no oil filter on this unit. You look here. Now, this is supposed to be an N62 Continental motor, the same thing as you would get in Alice Chambers Pony or a B tractor. But they have a different casting. It has an oil filter on it. This machine, no oil filter. I'm wondering if maybe this boss might have been where it was supposed to have gone if they decided they want one. But it doesn't have an oil filter. There's nothing here. There's no oil filter. You got the siphon action. I can't remember the term for it, but there's no water pump on this. There's no thermostat in this. And again, there's nothing. There's nowhere an oil filter goes. I don't know where the drain plug is on this. I just used my oil vacuum system, and I just sucked the oil out instead of trying to even bother. I got the tool, just sucked it out. But since there's no filters on this, on the hydraulics, I was really nervous when I started swishing that tank around. What I think I should have done was left the tank alone. All that goo and deposit was all caked in there for, 69 years. It would have probably been fine. But since I touched it, I made a holy glory mess. I had to get it done. Now, I got all new lines. They're all in. I got the tilt cylinder rebuilt. I did not do this one because it's not leaking. At least it's not leaking enough that I cared. The tilt cylinder was leaking. Not bad, but it make everything a little moist after a while, and it really bugged me. So I brought that in, had it done. So everything in the hydraulics is going to be fresh and clean, except for the pump. And it's just a little dainty pump back there. There's nothing particularly special about it. Probably never find one again, but not too hard to replace. Trying to figure out the coupling system, that's a whole nother video on how they couple that to the crankshaft over there. But everything should be clean. The pump, the way the gears wipe, it's that gear driven kind of pump thing, so I don't think there's any deposits in there. If anyone knows, I am trying to figure out, I hear that you can put a filter on the suction line, the inlet of the pump. But as I looked into it, people smarter than me kept saying you shouldn't do it. It's the worst place to put one. The problem is, they want it on the return. The return is connected to the spool valve. I have a monoblock 2 spool. It bolts right to the bottom of the hydraulic pump. The return goes right up the tank. There's no way to attach a hose. There's no way to put a filter or anything in it. It goes right up. So my only option is to use it on the suction line or on the pressure line. Now the pressure line, those kind of filters get expensive. I need to know what's my gallons per minute, what is my maximum pressure. I have no idea. That's not in the book. So pressure line seems to be out, and cost wise it's not going to happen. I think I should just put one on the suction line. There's a whole lot of YouTube and just stuff on the internet that says it's standard practice to put them on the suction line. But then there's also a lot of, the egghead types that are telling you, worst place you can put it. It plugs up, you cavitation, bubbles pop, it pits your gears, and you end up with all kinds of problems. But I would like to see bottom line, I'd like to see a filter on it. And the oil, well, this is basically a 10 point something horsepower, 11 horsepower lawnmower engine. Well, a lot of lawnmower engines don't have filters, so just keep it clean. It's been 69 years. Change the oil. I think that'll be fine. It would be nice to have an oil filter in there, but that's not going to happen. And just remember, when you do something like this, non-detergent straight weight oil. It calls for 30 weight, non-detergent straight weight. Don't put detergent in it, because my research tells me, and it makes a lot of sense. You put detergent oil in it, it will start cleaning all the buildup, all of your crust and critters in there. Now you have no way to catch them. So now they're just all floating around, suspended in your oil, all nice and pretty, all cleaned up. You just uncleaned everything with that detergent, and no way for it to go anywhere, and it can't go in a filter. And now every time you shut it off, them critters are just, that crud is just going to start settling on your bearing surfaces and any wear surfaces, and just take the rest of the life out of the 69-year-old motor. So don't touch it. Leave it alone. Put the regular straight weight, non-detergent. This calls for 30 weight. I think 30 weight in the summer and 50 weight in the winter. I just put a straight 30 weight, and we're not going to be running this around. It's going to be down here in the winter. I got to get up this ramp come winter time, and I don't see any reason I want to get out there. Now I got new traction tires for the back. The front are tore up. I just haven't bought them yet. I'm going to get me some new tires with traction. They call for traction tires. They're going to get traction tires. So I'll be able to move it around up that ramp, I figure, once the winter comes. But we'll see. Well, that's all for now. And hopefully there'll be more if this doesn't fall on me.